All right, we will start things off pretty promptly, like I said here. Just as a quick reminder, everybody's got their screens off and sound off, so you've got kids running around, dogs running around, whatever it might be. No need to worry about anything there. And then we've already got some things dropping in here on the Q&A side of things. So remember, there's that Q&A for questions that we'll be able to cover tonight, and then the chat side of things for people to kind of be able to chat back and forth if you so please. We'll cover the first question here before I jump in because it's a real easy one to cover. There's no need to update the web app. With the web version of the app, when you go to the website, we'll cover this later on in class, but when you go to the website and jump into that web browser-based version of Trout Routes, you're going to automatically have the most up-to-date version of that web-based app. So we'll jump into some of those updates, like I mentioned, on that side of things, and take a look there a little later on in class. So get that one answered there. Awesome. And we will jump to the next slide here and cover the agenda. So tonight we're going to jump into the membership options real quick. We're just going to kind of show off basic, show off pro. For those of you who joined tonight who might still be basic, we'll be able to kind of jump in tonight and show you all those good things that you get with pro. So for those pro members, you should be able to, like I said, have everything A to Z that you need after you leave class tonight, especially if you've got any other questions. Don't hesitate to drop those in. And then for those basic members, we'll show you why you should jump on over to the pro side of things. Number two, we're going to jump into map layers. We did do a class diving pretty deep into the map layers side of things. So we won't dive too deep into the map layers tonight, but we will just quickly go over them for anybody who might not have been able to join that class, but definitely recommend going and checking that one out as well. We will also be jumping into navigating the map. So obviously you can pan around on the map, and then we'll show a couple different other ways to potentially move around on the map and see different things. And then we'll jump into map icons. So when you're looking at the map, there's obviously a lot of different icons available there to look at. So we'll jump into all of those, and we'll jump into the stream card as well. So you'll be able to know exactly what you're looking at when you're looking at the maps. We'll also be taking a look at offline maps, how to create those, what those kind of do for you, how to make sure that you're doing it correctly before you head out, so you're not out on the water and you're like, oh, I thought I did this the right way and I apparently didn't. We'll make sure that you got it down before you head out on the water. And we'll also cover all the other custom map content that we've got in terms of custom waypoints, custom lines, and custom shapes as well, which is another great tool. And those are going to be private. We'll talk all about that. And then my location, river miles, and tutorials, those are going to be for the iOS side of things, coming to the Android side of things hopefully soon, now that we've got that Onyx team, right? We've got all those amazing new developers that we're able to lean in on. They're working hard to bring parity to all those different versions that you can access the app on. Like we talked about, we'll cover some of those things that we've been able to bring to the website of things already. We'll jump into those. Those are going to be on those right-hand side buttons on the iOS side of things, like I mentioned, and then we'll jump into the web map side of things, cover the new things there, and then we will go into the Q&A, and then we are going to have a giveaway tonight. So make sure you stick around to the end of class. We're going to be giving away a few hats. I'll drop the link in at the end of class, and you'll be able to enter for all of those. So couple real quick to answer Keith. Tonight's class probably going to be hour and a half long, depending on how many questions we have. Like I said, we're gonna go pretty deep into the app tonight. So if you can't stick around for class, we are gonna have the recorded version posted on our YouTube per usual. So that should be posted tomorrow sometime. So we will, you can always, if you have to jump off, you can always reference anything there as well tomorrow and anytime after that. So awesome. Moving along. So I am going to stop sharing this screen now and start sharing my iPad, and we're going to just jump right into the app here. Let's see. There we go. All right. Can I get somebody to just to confirm in the chat that they can see my screen with Trout Routes up? Awesome. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. All right. So, like I said, we're going to jump in quick here onto the membership options. So, we've got our basic membership. When you jump into the app and you log in, you're going to either join on and you're going to sign up for your membership, which gives you that 7-day free trial. You can sign up for that 7-day free trial. You get all the access to those pro features. And then if you choose to continue as basic, sometimes you'll get that 24 hours as a pro to try to just give you that little bit of taste of it. But if you do end up staying as a basic member, we'll jump into that basic side of things here, and we'll show you on the basic side of things. It is going to be pretty basic, right? That's going to be the free version of the app. You're just going to be able to see where those trout lines are, where trout live. You're not going to get access to those gauges. If you click in, that's going to ask you to upgrade. You are going to get access to any of those fly shops around the country that we've got mapped out. So it is a good tool if you're just looking to start exploring, kind of just getting your feet wet potentially, and you want to know, like, where do I start out? What kind of water am I looking at that might hold trout in it? Just trying to get your feet wet, right? So that's going to be the one way to kind of jump in there. And then next is going to obviously be when you upgrade to our pro version. And from pro, we'll jump right into those map layers, because you're going to get access to those public land parcels, land boundaries on waterways, stream ratings, 350,000 access points, right? Offline maps, all the good stuff. But first, starting off, you're going to get access to all of these different map layers. So first, like I said, we covered in that last class pretty in depth here. So we're going to go over these pretty quick. If you do have any additional questions, feel free to drop those in the Q&A. I don't have anybody keeping an eye on the Q&A, so we are going to kind of bank all those questions till the end, but we'll visit those on anything that you've got questions on throughout the class. So don't hesitate to ask any of those questions. We've had plenty of time at the end of class for those. All right, jumping into the first thing of the map layers here is going to be those map modes. So we'll keep the base layer on road. Sometimes it's easiest to see in terms of contrast for those different map modes. But the first map mode you're going to have access to is going to be the guide map mode. This is typically my favorite map mode, typically the map mode that users are going to use most often. It is pre-selected, but it also gives you our proprietary stream ratings. So what does that mean, right? Proprietary stream ratings is a pretty big term. So stream ratings, let's just dumb it down. You're going to have stream ratings. So we're going to have your gold medal, class 1, class 2, and class 3. When we started mapping out the country, we realized, okay, all these streams around the country are quite different. So let's make it hopefully easy to digest for users. If we click into one of the streams here and bring in the stream card, I'll rate the app later. I think I've rated it at this point. And we jump into the stream classes. We can take a look that the stream classes are a unique classification system created by Trout Routes to help you find great trout streams. So again, like I mentioned, you're gonna have those gold medal, blue ribbon, class 1, class 2, and class 3. So it's gonna be a real quick, easy way to kind of understand how good, quote unquote, that's a great word, right? A trout stream is gonna be, how maybe the population of the trout stream is going to be kind of attached to that rating. So it's going to give you kind of that quick access to maybe just start exploring, right? And you're going to see, obviously, some of those feeder streams are going to be a lower class rating. And so you're going to kind of be able to explore some of those blue lines or some of those larger streams, depending on what type of experience you're looking for. If we jump into the legend, that's going to be a really quick, easy way to kind of understand what you're seeing with this particular map mode. So again, you're going to be able to see those streams listed by the classification, by the stream rating. And then we're going to have those public sections designated by those gray bars around the water. So you can see those sections, they have that green land shading, and then we've got those gray bars on the water. That's going to designate sections of water that flow through that public land where you can safely and responsibly enter or exit the water in those sections. Moving on to the next map mode here, we won't waste too much time. We're going to jump into the access layer. So this access mode is going to, as you can see, we jump into the legend here. We're going to have some easement land and easement sections shown. So again, that's going to be private landowners who are going to be giving easements to their land for anglers purpose, or for angling purposes, right? We're also going to have those state and national park lands. If we zoom out a little bit, we're going to have those clearly labeled. We're going to have reservation land clearly labeled, and we're going to have other different public lands clearly labeled with that access layer. So if you're specifically looking to find those easement access points or things like that, where maybe, again, not as many people are going to know about the access in certain areas like that, this is going to be the particular map mode that you'll be able to use to start looking for those specifically. Moving into that next map mode real quickly here, we're going to jump into that regulations layer. And this one's going to be fantastic. And it's going to be the detail is going to vary depending on which state you're in. So again, if we jump into that legend, we can see we're kind of hovering over Colorado right now. So we get those different basic kind of regulations. As we jump into the stream card later in class, we'll see that we can dive a little bit deeper into what those regulations are within there. So we'll jump into that in a little bit here. But if we pan out and we start to kind of pan over to, say, Utah here, we will get the map will repopulate there, and it'll be able to pull up those different regulations for the state of Utah. Again, if we navigate, let's take a look over here. We'll navigate over to California, Oregon. We should be able to have those populate. So as you kind of pan around the map, again, we scoot around to the East Coast, you'll see we've got all of those East Coast regulations mapped out. Jump into the legend there, we've got those New York regulations. We can scoot down, we'll have it populate to the Pennsylvania regulations. So again, this is a really nice kind of quick, easy way to be able to see what those regulations are in the area that you're specifically looking at, and be able to then, we'll show on the stream card later, dive a little bit deeper into the regulations beyond that. All right, we'll jump back to that guide mode. Like I said, sometimes the easiest mode to look at, easiest to digest, particularly my favorite. We'll spend a lot of time on that one tonight, but we'll jump back to that just to kind of start showing off those base layers again. So the first base layer that we've been looking at is going to be your roads base layer. If we start zooming in, you're going to have all those main roads, things like that mapped out. If we move up into some less populated areas, and we'll go over into Maine per se. You can see we've got some of those forest roads mapped out via trail system roads and things like that. So we've got a lot of really great detail in terms of the roads layer there. And then if we back out, jump into that terrain base layer, that terrain base layer is going to give you a great idea of kind of how that terrain is going to look and feel. Going to be great whether you're looking in the mountainous terrain out east, out west, wherever it might be. And then if we jump into that satellite base layer, this is going to be a base layer that's going to vary in quality depending on where you're at. You know, if you're in a more populated area, the quality of the satellite imagery that we're able to pull in through Mapbox or base map provider is going to obviously be better than it might be in less populated areas. So just a warning there, you know, sometimes I like to jump over to my Google Earth just to, you know, they're going to have very high level detail, or you can jump into the Hunt app, things like that. You know, we've got that other vertical. They're going to have some really great detail as well. So if you've got your Hunt subscription, you can jump over there as well. So that's going to kind of cover the quick overview of map layers. Like I mentioned, we did have a class jumping really deep into these map layers, diving into the map modes and into the base layers and kind of the situations that you might want to use them for. So that's a really great class, like I said, to jump into if you want to know more about those map modes and map layers specifically. All right, we are going to take a break to cover a couple questions. I think it might be a little bit easier to answer some questions as we go through the sections. So before that, we jump into the next section about navigating around the map. We'll answer some questions here. So first question from Anne, is it possible to make the text naming the rivers easier to read on the maps? So Anne, I totally understand what you're saying. If we're just zooming around and you're kind of trying to look at the base map, that's going to be, you're going to have to zoom in pretty far to see that. But the nice, easy way to see really quick way to see the river name is if you click on that river, or if I click on the river itself, you'll be able to pull up that river name, and that's going to pull up that stream card, which we'll jump into here in a little bit. That's going to be the easiest way to pull up those stream card names, and the stream name specifically, I should say. John, I think I mentioned it before, but we will have this presentation recorded and then posted on our YouTube at some point tomorrow, hopefully. So that answers your question as well there, Dave. And then we'll answer that later on. We'll cover a couple other ways that you can kind of learn more about the app. Again, one of those ways is going to be to not only watch past classes, but also make sure that you're signed up for our emails and making sure you're following along on our socials for any of those other classes that are coming up. We're hoping to mix in 1 to 2 a month here and potentially grow the classes from there. Next question, does the iPhone app version have the same features as the web version? I'm using Pro. So great question. Yeah, so like I mentioned, there is still a little bit of non-parity, we'll say, in terms of features that we have specifically focused on the iOS side, being that that's where we have the most users, where we have the most active sessions. That's kind of been where we focus to be able to test out certain features. And then as those features have been popular and gotten good feedback, we've been able to bring those over into those other platforms. Like I mentioned, we'll cover some of those new features that have launched on the website, and then we'll be bringing those to the Android side sometime down the road. All right, Aaron, are there any benefits to Onyx as a Trout Routes member only, or is the benefit strictly for Onyx members? It's a great question, Aaron. So, we're still looking at different ways to kind of integrate the different verticals within, now that we are within the Onyx Maps family. So definitely keep an eye out for different ways that the verticals will be kind of interacting and combining in different ways that you can benefit from both subscriptions to all of the different verticals, right? So definitely keep your eye out for all of that. Rebecca, how are the classifications for the streams determined? By whom, using what data? Great question. So the stream classifications are going to come from a bunch of different data resources. We're going to use national, state, local level resources, as well as TU studies, collegiate studies. So our mapping team has taken multiple different data sets and data points to be able to kind of determine those classifications. Again, sometimes we're going to be taking those state classifications. We can, if I slide back out here, one of my favorite ones to show here is, we'll jump back over to the roads base layer here again. Sometimes we're going to have the best contrast, and then we'll jump into that regulations layer. And so obviously states have their own regulations, and so we will take those into account a lot of times. And then a lot of the times we'll have those accessible within the app in different areas. So again, my favorite one to show off is going to be New Mexico. For those of you who don't know, New Mexico loves to regulate their classes for their streams by chili names. So we've got red chili, X-Max chili, green chili. So that's one of my favorite things that you can reference the state classification and then cross-reference that with the classification that Trout Routes has given it using those multiple different data sets. So a couple different ways that you can kind of try to understand a piece of water that you fish multiple times or that you're trying to learn about to fish down the road at some point. Great question. And when I go to map regulations, I get no special regulations in your area, even after moving the map around. Yeah, so that's I see that you're kind of update to your question below. So that's a great clarification. So we do have some states out on the West Coast that we're still working on the regulations for. For those of you who live out west in certain areas, the regulations are a little bit confusing, and so we're still trying to make sure that we've got those dialed in and as tight as can be before that we release them to to our user base. I want to make sure if we've got our user base utilizing them, that they're as tight as they can be, right? Is the Map Layers class available on a YouTube video? Joe, great question. It absolutely is. If you jump over to YouTube, search Trout Routes, jump into that channel. We've got a playlist with all of our master classes, or if you go to videos, it should be the most recent video posted, unless you jump in tomorrow, and then this video will be the most recent one posted. Jacob, glad to hear that you're enjoying the YouTube page. Really appreciate it. Abby, is there some way of knowing how big the stream or creek or river is? That's a great question, Abby. And so we're working on a couple different ways to potentially be able to better understand how big a stream, creek, or river is. One way is obviously going to be utilizing those classification levels, those gold medal, class 1, class 2, class 3 streams, because of as you trickle down into those ratings, you're going to tend to find skinnier water. It's going to tend to be one of those things that go into the rating. But we're also trying to figure out ways to not only be able to utilize the gauges that we have access to, which is a great way to be able to kind of understand how much water might be flowing down a river, but then utilize a couple different databases to even understand what predictive flows on other streams that don't have gauges could be. So that could be a really great tool that could come to the app at some point that we'll be able to understand even further. But those ratings and then those gauges that are available are great ways to kind of understand how big a piece of water might be. And then again, if you jump into that satellite mode and zoom in, sometimes you can tend to see how wide the water area that it covers might be. That's another way you can try to understand the water before you head to it. Rebecca, special regulations show up on the legend, but is there any information on what they are? Great question. Again, we're going to jump into that stream card here in just a little bit. And within that stream card, you're going to be able to, there's a tab right within the stream card that you can understand those regulations a little bit better. There's a little bit more information right within the stream card, and then links for even more information on the state databases and things like that. So we'll jump into that here in just a couple minutes. Randy, can you add a function to be able to show only certain type of stream regulations? I fish in North Carolina and would be able to see late harvest streams only. Randy, it's a great piece of a great request. And I will certainly pass that along to our development team. And I know we've got a lot of great filters, but that's definitely one that would be nice to be able to filter specifically by state. As I've traveled to North Carolina a couple times myself, and you know, there's definitely those different regulations. You want to make sure you're understanding which ones and make sure that the water you're trying to scout ahead of time is what you want to be fishing when you want to be fishing it. So great request, and I will make sure to pass that along to our development team. Richard, where do we find the class schedules? So great question. So Richard, we at this point we're scheduling classes a few weeks in advance. So make sure that you keep an eye out within the next couple weeks for the next few classes to be announced. And those will be announced via our email as well as posted on our website and then our social channels as well. So any of those ways will be able to find those invites and find the links for registration. Oh, some of the trout streams I fish should be at least a class 1, but they're downgraded because they're difficult to access. Some require several miles of hiking, but they're still a great trout stream. Maybe in the future you can separate the difficulty of access for how good the fishing is. That's a great observation there, Paul. And one of those things being that Trout Route's focus is helping people access water and access public water. We'll talk a little bit in a couple weeks about a really exciting partnership that we've got that'll expand that. But within the goal of accessing public water and helping people do that, those stream ratings do take into account the amount of public access that's there, or the ability, the difficulty of access in terms of strenuous and how, if a stream has a incredible elevation, we'll say that might be rated one class lower just due to the difficulty, like you mentioned. So those are definitely some things to take into account, and we'll show in a little bit one way that you can actually tell the elevation of the stream ahead of time. So again, if you're planning out that hike and you want the strenuous hike or you don't want the strenuous hike, you can know that ahead of time as well, which is really nice. Bill, any way to get latitude and longitude from the Trout Routes map? That's a great question. And so we will show you here, we'll jump in any of the points that you create or anything that we've got mapped out already. You can take and you can grab directions to, and those directions are actually going to pull the latitude and longitude to find those directions. So it's pretty quick and easy to be able to find the latitude and longitude. We'll kind of wrap that into sharing points, and I'll make sure to wrap that in as we move on here. How accurate is your access data compared to on water, and how do I report an error? It's a great question. We feel really confident in terms of our access data. I can't necessarily compare to on water necessarily, but I can comment on how you can report an error. We don't currently have a way to report an error right in app, so the easiest way to do so is to reach out to our team at support@troutroutes.com. Again, we're not relying on any crowdsourced data. We're really proud of that. We feel as though that's, again, a big tool for conservation to make sure that we're not showing where anglers are currently. We're not taking into account where anglers' hotspots are, whatever it might be, right? But at the same time, we do love hearing from our user base and making sure that all of that information is up to date and as tight as it can be, so to speak. So, all right. That's gonna be the last one I answer. We're gonna kind of keep moving along, and I will stop again here in potentially a couple sections. Don't want to get too bogged down with questions here. All right. So like I mentioned, next thing that we're going to cover here in class is going to be navigating the map. So obviously we can kind of zoom in, pinch and zoom, right? We can scroll around the app. We jump into the filters really quick here, scroll down. We can see that we can allow the map to rotate. If we do that, we can then rotate the map. You see that compass up on the right-hand side. That's going to kind of help us to keep ourselves oriented. There we go. We make sure that we're keeping true north there. We'll snap it back to north, turn that off. Sometimes it's a little easier to navigate around. But right, pinch and zoom, kind of scroll around. That's really one quick, easy way to navigate yourself around the app. So say though I want to go to a state specifically. I open the app and I'm in Colorado, but I want to specifically go start exploring Georgia, let's say, for a trip that I'm going to be going and taking in the fall. If I click that upper left-hand side, do that again, that's going to pull up the list of states that we can scroll through from A to Z. We'll jump to Oregon this time. I can choose a state, select done, and then I can snap to that state really quickly by clicking that box icon right next to the state. So if I click that, that's going to snap me all the way over to the state, and I'll have real quick, easy access to that area. The other way to be able to start kind of fiddling around, searching around, whatever it might be, is if you know where you want to search, whether it's the city you want to search in, whether it's the specific river you want to search for, whether it's there's a bar that you know, there's certain things that you can search for by state. So we're going to jump into the state of Colorado here specifically. So when you're searching, you want to make sure, again, you jump into that upper left-hand side and select the state you want to search in. That will help power that search and be able to bring those rivers, whatever it might be. I'm going to start searching for Bear Creek within Colorado. And if I didn't have Colorado selected, the state that I would have selected is going to populate first, and then it's going to give me a list of Bear Creeks in all the different states around the country. So this is going to be the quickest and easiest way to find the point that you're looking for within the specific state that you're looking for, is making sure that you have that state selected before that you start searching. So I can then, within that search, click on the stream name, and that's going to pull me right to it, and that's going to open up the stream card. And so that's going to jump us right into that next section that we're going to talk about, which is going to be the stream card and the map icons. So now that we've got the stream card open, let's jump into that right away. So we'll click off of that just for the sake of showing everybody how that would pull that up again. So like I mentioned before, you can zoom in if you're looking around, you can see the stream name like that. But again, the quickest and easiest way to understand what you're looking at, the stream name, whatever it might be, is going to be to click on that stream boundary, and that's going to pull up the stream card. So within the stream card, we're going to have a ton of information. We're going to have also a couple, like you noticed there, that stream card kind of bounced down. So if we start zooming around the map, that's going to bounce down, but we'll still be able to see what the stream name that we've got selected is. So we stop kind of panning around and we swipe back up. We can also swipe up again, and that's going to bring open all of this awesome information. Like I mentioned, we can start right here in the geography section by looking at the elevation chart. So again, we can start kind of understanding how strenuous a hike in a certain section of water might be. Obviously, you can identify dams, you can identify a lot of different things like that with the elevation chart, and then we can jump into, if we're looking at the chart here, along the right-hand side, right below the slope number there, the overall average slope, we can change to the slope chart. So again, if we pan along this slope chart, we pan down far enough, you can see as we pan along, and I'm just doing that by clicking and holding on the screen and scrubbing along that chart, you can see we've got that exact area where that measurement has been taken. Again, if we jump over into the elevation, we can do the same thing by scrubbing along that chart. We can see exactly where that elevation number is. So that's a really nice tool for as you're starting to kind of understand new water, explore new water, plan out a trip, whatever it might be. That elevation chart and slope chart are going to be really powerful to kind of understand how strenuous a hike on that section of water might be. So that's going to be one of those moving tabs within the stream card. To kind of cover the stream card in its completeness, we'll jump into that top section. So again, we're going to have the stream name. We're going to have the section. So if we click on the section above, say above here, you can see we have the headwaters section, and then we have the below evergreen section, which is going to be listed right underneath the creek name there. And then we've got the county and state that it's located in. We've got the distance that it is from my current position. We've got the feet of elevation, and that's going to be, I believe, the median feet of elevation. And then we're also going to have the ability to share with a friend. So if you click share, that's again, like I mentioned earlier, this is going to be where you'll be able to pull that latitude and longitude if you create certain points. We'll show off that in a little bit here. And then we've got the ability to bookmark. So we'll cover my content in a little bit. I'm going to bookmark that, and we'll come back to that and be able to find this creek really quickly and easily when we're taking a peek at the my content in a little bit. And then you'll also be able to download your the maps offline specifically for this river right in here. We'll cover offline maps a little bit more later on, but we'll come back to that button specifically. Moving back down into this area that, like I mentioned, is going to be kind of the bread and butter of the stream card, right? So we can next click into that local information, and that's going to give us that additional information, like I mentioned, where we can have more access to some of those regulations and things like that. So it's going to give us general season guidance. It's going to give us those river characteristics. It's going to let us know if it's a popular river. It's going to let us know if it's a tailwater, if it has an easement section on it. And then scrolling down a little bit, we're going to have those special regulations. So it's going to have gear restrictions present, see regulations below, and then we'll be able to see those gear restrictions are going to be fishing is by artificial flies and lures only. So really nice, quick, easy ways to kind of get an understanding of what those regulations in terms of harvest might be, or gear restrictions, things like that, are going to be really quickly and easily accessible within the stream card if you're not getting all the information you want just using that regulations layer. Next tab we're going to cover is going to be the fly shops tab. So this is going to be a really awesome one. This is going to give you fly shops by their distance from the stream. So we can see that the closest fly shop to Bear Creek here is going to be Blue Quill Angler, and moving on, it's going to be Golden Fly Shop, Ascent Fly Shop. Obviously, Colorado has a plethora of fly shops that you could visit before, after, or in the middle of your day while you're on the water on Bear Creek. So that's going to be a really quick, easy way. You can get directions. You can jump over to their website. You can give them a call. We'll show when we jump into the icons here, once we're done covering the stream card, we'll show how you can find the fly shops specifically by icon on the map, but this is going to be an easy way to find them by distance from a certain waterway. Next one is going to be probably my favorite, which is going to be the stream flows. So this is going to be where it's going to take all of the stream gauges across that entire waterway and going to give you them in a list so you can quickly and easily tell the live flows, live heights, and on certain gauges around the country, live temperatures, and be able to kind of determine which section of water you might want to fish based on those live numbers. Obviously, it's a little bit different down below the dam there compared to above Bear Creek. So it's a great way to be able to kind of tell what section of water you might want to fish. And then this next tab is going to be our access laws tab. So this is going to be one that's going to be great to be able to access and utilize when you're traveling. So we know that stream bed access laws from state to state are going to be different. And so this is going to be an area where you're going to be able to get a quick summary, kind of those access laws in a nutshell, like we've called it here, on the walk and wade streambed access laws, and then those floating access laws. And then we're going to give you those direct links to the state website and the source for the information that we've been utilizing, which is going to be Backcountry Hunters and Anglers. So this is going to be, again, a really great resource for anglers who want to make sure that they know what they're doing when they're accessing water in a new state, and make sure that they're not making a mistake by just assuming that the access laws are the same where that they've been fishing all along. And then finally, my content, this is going to be where you can save specific notes or add photos to the stream. This is going to be a really great tool. Again, anything that you do, we'll cover this later on, additionally with more of my content that you can add, but anything that you add to your profile specifically is never going to be shared. It's only going to stay right within your profile. So you can kind of use this like your own fishing log, right? So I've on a lot of different rivers around the country, I've added notes on the weather conditions and what I was catching fish on in those weather conditions, the fish that I missed in those weather conditions, right? And added photos in certain areas that I want to make sure I go back to. And make sure you toss the big white streamer in that section, in that log jam when you come back, whatever it might be. Again, really great tool to be able to use to refer back to later on. And then that's going to kind of cover the stream card for us. So a really great tool to dive deeper into specific waterways and make sure that you're understanding those specific waterways before they head out on the water. All right. And then next, we're going to jump into all of the different icons that you're going to see across the map. So the easiest way to do it is going to be to jump into our filters here. So within the filters and map settings, you can see first off, we can filter by those different stream classes. That's, again, going to be the main thing that you're going to see on the app. You're going to be looking for water, right? So that's going to be those stream classes that you'll be able to see. And this is going to be a quick, easy way to kind of filter by those different stream classes. Say I wanted to just go for that kind of small, skinny water, I'd be able to select those class 2 and class 3 streams. Or if I wanted to just go for those gold medal popular streams, I'd be able to say, all right, this is where I'm heading. That's going to be the good stuff. It's going to be big water, might be tough, might be technical, but I know that's where everybody fishes from way back when. That's where books have been written about. That kind of water is going to be your gold medal, blue ribbon water. That's going to be a quick, easy way to see anything along those rivers. So next special filter is going to be, again, you'll be able to select those most popular. So like I said, that's going to select not just those gold medal, but any waterway that's popular within that section. We can select that one off. Fishing easements only. Again, pretty self-explanatory. Only going to show sections of water that have that are eased, that have easements on them. So a nice way to, if you want to specifically look for those sections that might have less anglers on them or whatever it might be, you can utilize that filter to find those. And tailwaters, this is a great one out west in the winter, when things lock up, you can find those tailwaters to find that water that you can still fish year round by utilizing that filter. You can see that'll filter any of those tailwaters. So that's going to be the only water you'll be able to see. Really powerful tool for that time of year. All right, so jumping into the stream objects then. So this is going to be kind of anything that you're going to be able to see within those different layers. And first, starting off, we'll click into the stream to be able to talk about bridges. So we can see bridges are going to be listed by blue or orange. And those, or I should say brown or orange, pardon me. And those brown bridges, if we click into them, we can understand whether they're private or public bridges. And that's just going to mean whether those the roads are driving through private or public land and bordering private or public land. So that's just going to be what that designation means. And then the orange bridges here are going to give us real quick, you can see my girlfriend's been looking up some clothes apparently, give us real quick, easy access to stream quick Google Maps view. So that's going to be a real nice, quick, easy way to potentially tell what that access point looks like using those orange street view bridges. All right, clicking back off there. Next is going to be those state and national park icons. So if we zoom out here, we can see those green icons are going to designate state parks. We can click in to find out more about what that state park might be. Or if we zoom out, you can also find those national parks. Find those national parks. That way you can kind of understand, all right, any of the water I'm looking at around that section is going to be within the national park. Again, we can always go to that access layer, and that's going to show us specifically the national park areas. Jumping back to guide there and jumping back into the filters. We'll scoot down and you can see if we click off this filter, that's going to, some people appreciate and some people like a little bit more clarity on their maps when they're looking at them. So some people will turn off those public land layers, but that's just going to be able to give you those layers to be able to, again, you're going to have that ability to see the public versus private land boundaries on the waterway itself using that gray shading. But if we're looking at the map itself and we want to understand what the land surrounding it might be, we can utilize that green shading utilizing that filter. So we'll leave that one on. Again, I tend to like it. Next is going to be the main icon within the app, and that's going to be your fishing access icon. So we've got 350,000 access points across the map. They're going to be designated fishing access points, state, local, level designations. So we're going to have hopefully as many designations as we can. And then we're also going to have those general parking spots. We're going to have camping. Depending on the state databases that we've been able to pull from, certain campsites have more information than others. Some, as you can see here in Colorado, it just gives you directions. It'll allow you to share it with friends and allow you to create amongst the, just letting you know where it's at. Some have additional information as to how many campsites there might be, certain amenities at the campsite. So that's gonna, again, vary by state. Off there, click into the filters again, and we can see the next ones that we'll be looking at is going to be those trailheads. A real nice one if we scoot around here to be able to find some of those trailheads and be able to get real quick, easy access. Again, if we click in, we can find those directions. And that'll take us either to Google Maps or Apple Maps, depending on what device we're using or what mapping platform we prefer to use. Share with friends, and then create a custom marker, which we'll kind of, again, go over here in a little bit. Next one is going to be those boat ramps. Again, quick, easy way to be able to find those boat ramps along the map. You can zoom around. You can always click any of those things that you don't want to be able to see. So I just want to be able to see those boat ramps. I can click everything off and I can see just those boat ramps. That's all that matters to me. It's a real quick, easy way to filter the map and see it exactly how you want it. I'll add them all back here. These next few are going to have a little bit more in-depth filter ability. So we click into more information there with that little eye right next to the dams wording. We can see that the dams filter options, utilizing hide, it's going to hide all dams from the map. Stream only is going to show you dams on a river when you select it. And then showing dams is going to show all dams all the time. So depending on whether you are focusing on tailwaters in your area or certain or not, you might want to filter out dams in a different way. So again, habitat projects, we're going to bring in TU habitat projects, and this is going to be another way where you can filter those by stream only. You can filter those, again, if we can click into that eye, filter by stream only. Show them when the projects are on a river when you select it. So if we do that, we'll go to stream only. If we take us to Wisconsin, we can select some water and you can see, we can see those habitat projects along certain streams that might have them. So that's going to be a way to access those habitat projects. And then trout stocking, another way we can, we're going to have stocking locations. We're not going to have updated stocking timing or things like that, but we will have those stocking locations. Trout lakes, this is going to be one that we added pretty quietly within the last few months, but we are now going to have stocked trout lakes that you can turn on and be able to find those with those blue icons across the map. So those are going to be, again, those stocked trout lakes. Fly shops, and we can, as I mentioned before, not only can you see those fly shops within the stream card, but you can also see them right on the map there. Click into those fly shops, be able to get directions. And we've also, I want to show off some of our partner fly shops. So across the map as well, you click into those Trout Routes endorsed partner fly shops. You can see a little bit extra information about those fly shops and some of the services and classes and things like that that they might offer. So that's a nice way to learn about different fly shops in your area or areas that you're looking around at, and make sure that you're getting the most information and grabbing some flies from a local source before that you hit the water. Stream gauges, like I mentioned, these are again going to be accessible via the stream card where you can have all of them listed. But if you want to find a specific stream gauge along a river that you know that you want to fish that specific section, so that's the only gauge you care about, you can find that right on the water, that waterway. Click on the gauge itself, and that will pull up the quick view of the gauge, and then we can click into those charts to get a more detailed view by month, by week, or by day. And then we can choose by flow, by height, and again, by temperature on some of those icons around the country. All right. Next one is going to be those tributary boundaries. So this is going to be for certain streams. Specifically, we cruise up to, for those of you who know the North Shore of Minnesota, we've got our for those of you who want to call them fake, we've got our steelhead, and we've got our other fish who run into the streams at certain times, whether it be salmon, our coaster brook trout, things like that. And this is going to be a way to be able to kind of tell where those boundaries on those rivers that fish are going to be running up to are going to be at. So you can see, again, if we click into those filters, those tributary boundaries are going to be labeled by those bright turquoise icons. So you can see those stream boundaries if we click into there. So that's going to be the stream boundary, but if it's a waterfall, a dam, whatever it might be, right? All right, and so that's going to kind of cover all of the icons that you're going to see around the map. And then we are going to cover the rest of the filter options here. It's going to be some of those miscellaneous options. So if we zoom out, right now you can kind of see ability to add our county and state, our county overlay. So you can either have those on or off, again, depending on how you like to view your maps. You can get really customizable via that. We already covered the rotate. Tilt is going to kind of come into play here down the road. Persistent settings, this is one I like to use. So I like to set my settings, I don't like parking sometimes. I don't want the camping. I'm not going to be doing any camping on the next trip I'm going on. And with that persistent settings, any of those changes I make, the next time I load the app, that's going to be how those settings are still set. If I don't have those persistent settings on, next time I reload the app, all of those settings are going to be reset to the default settings. So just kind of depending on whether you want to make sure you've got those settings that you know how you like to view your maps, that's going to be the way to make sure that the way you like to view your maps is going to be the way that your maps show up every time you open the app. So lock filters enabled. This is going to be turning it on will prevent the filters from resetting to default when you switch the map mode types. So again, this is just going to be when you switch from those map modes, this is going to help you keep those persistent settings. So another nice way if you want to make sure you're seeing the maps the way you want to see them. And then snap to stream. When you tap a stream, you can either snap the map to the stream, or you can keep it zoomed out and just have it selected on that stream, depending, again, how you like to interact with your maps, view your maps. You can kind of play around with that. So we'll show if we turn that on and I click to a stream, it's going to snap me in and kind of view me in on just that stream. So that'll be one way to, again, view the maps the way that you like them or not. Zoom fade enabled. This setting fades out stream access points when you zoom out, making the map overall a little bit easier to read, right? So depending on whether you want to see all access points all the time, or as you kind of zoom out, you want to be able to see just those streams, make it a little bit easier to view. Again, the way you want to view your map, we make it easy for you. And then this last one's going to be an important one. We questions about this all the time. People are like, I can't get my directions to go to my Google Maps, or I can't get my directions to go to my Apple Maps. And so when you click into a section there, and so again, this is going to be when you're using your iPhone. If you click in, we're going to be able to get directions really quick and easy within the stream card. And you'll be able to select whether you want to get those directions on your Apple Maps or your Google Maps. But if you select the wrong one at any point, you can always jump into your filters and set your default. And so that's going to be, if you have this selected, it will open when you select to get directions, it will open up in Google Maps. If you have this unselected, it will open up those directions within Apple Maps if you're using the iOS device. So, all righty. Whew, that was a long one. Let's answer some questions, why don't we? So that kind of covers, again, all of those filter settings and then that stream card. So going to be a really good, hopefully, overview, giving you an idea of what you're looking at when you're looking at the map. All right. First question I've got in front of me here is from Steve. How often are the classifications updated? Great question, Steve. So we revisit states and regions. We try to do it yearly. Our mapping team is obviously keeping its eye on certain sections getting handed over, and classifications may be changing from a state level, certain things like that. So if any of those changes are made, our team tries to keep as close of an eye on it, but we do try to do a deep scrub annually of certain quadrants of the country. Andrew, in a prior Zoom, I believe you're adding Alaska. Any update? Headed there in September. Great question, Andrew. And we're still hoping to at some point add Alaska. At this point, we've got a lot of other things that we're trying to focus on in terms of bringing parity to the other apps and things like that. So Alaska is still on our list of states to get to. At this point, I don't have a specific timeline to give you, but definitely make sure you're keeping an eye on any of those channels you get information from us at for updates on that. Brian, how do I get my filters on the different layers hold? If I exit and come back, I have to redo them. So that's a great question. So we covered that within that filters section, hopefully, that gives you that persistent settings and those lock filters enabled when you change the different layers. So that's going to be where you'll be able to choose those persistent settings for those different map modes. David, there are dams being removed in California, the Klamath River. Absolutely. We're all excited about that one, right? How long will it take the app to reflect this? So again, this is going to be something that our team's going to be watching as closely as we can. So I don't have necessarily a specific timeline as to how quickly the app will be able to reflect that, but we will try to get those updates made as quickly and as soon as we can in terms of those changes being announced and those dams coming down. Awesome. Next one. Will it be possible to use the measurement tool on non-trout streams? There are several rivers in Michigan that get steelhead runs that are not classified as trout streams, and it would be nice to be able to measure float distances. Great question. So we won't be able to use you won't be able to use the river miles tool specifically, but I'll show you the ability to, if we're creating custom lines within the app, you can get a distance via that. So that's going to be kind of a rough way to get some of those distances. The river miles tool is definitely easier, but that tool is going to be specifically for those designated trout streams that we have within the app. So we'll show the ability to kind of cheat code that here in a little bit. And will more info about campsites be added to the individual sites, links in the future, such as what type of land it is on, or if it's free or paid, and can it be reserved? I've also been a bit confused by all the campsites shown scattered throughout Yellowstone National Park. Great question, Ann. Right now, we've been pulling in just designated campsites. We are, it's on our backlog. It's a long backlog, I promise. We're trying to cruise through it as quickly as we can to be able to kind of revisit those campsites and potentially add more information, potentially take out some that are either repetitive or no longer exist, things like that. So At this point, all of the information that we've been able to pull in from those different state databases, like I said, it varies from state to state, are going to be listed within those campsites. But definitely keep an eye on any updates that come to those. It's definitely in that backlog. Have you considered adding CFM to the maps? I see other map tools have that available. Aaron, I would have to ask you to maybe spell that one out a little bit more for me. I'm the marketing guy here. That term might go a little bit over my head potentially. So I'm gonna leave that question here. We should come back to it. Awesome. When will all the features on iPhone be available on Android? Lou, great question. I don't have an exact timeline for you right now. Like I mentioned, we have been able to bring on more developers with the Onyx acquisition, and so they're working hard to try to bring parity across the board here. Can you discuss gauge levels and recommended safe wading/boating levels? Same question about water temps. Do you have current condition ratings like Orvis, which isn't always current? Great questions. So that question is gonna vary by different rivers, right? So on a large river, a certain number might represent one thing, and on that same number on a small river is going to represent a completely different river condition, right? And so we're hoping to, actually we're working on right now, revamping our river gauge tool completely to where that it has a lot more value for users, we're hoping, and the ability to see averages and be able to see a lot further out averages and things like that. And so hopefully that will be a lot easier to be able to understand kind of where the river is in comparison to where it usually is, which will then be able to tell you, help you understand what might be wadeable and what might not be. In terms of current condition ratings that you might see from outfitters and things like that, we're currently trying to figure out how we could pair with certain fly shops and things like that around the country to bring in those live updates and things. But at this time, we don't have any of those kind of necessarily written out live updates. Larry, is this stream card different by device? My Pro Stream card does not have what you've shown in your demo. Larry, that might be, that's a great question. You might be using that Android device again. That stream card that we're showing off is going to be available on iOS and newly on web, and we're working hard to bring it across those other devices as well. Steve, how do you access the stream card? Hopefully we answered this one for you, but again, to quickly answer that, if you click anywhere along a trout stream, you'll be able to pull open that stream card for that waterway, which is going to be the quickest way to tell what the name of the creek is. Zoom back out there. Awesome. What is the orange dot on the stream? So again, Scott, hopefully we covered that one for you. That is going to be those bridges, and that's going to be that Street View bridge, or if we click on that Street View, that's going to pull us right to that Street View. Oh, that looks good. To where we can see there might be some parking, or we can see what the access looks like. That's going to be a really nice tool to be able to use for any of those bridges that have Street View on them. Elizabeth, hopefully we answered that question. Again, we're working hard to bring that to Android. Jeffrey, Alaska, again, we're working hard. Canada, that one's going to be down the road a little bit. We've got a lot of things that we want to do before that we dive into Canada. That's going to be a whole nother beast to tackle. But down the road, we definitely have ambitions of getting there. Will, hopefully we just covered that for you in terms of accessing the stream card. How early before a trip can I check out a tailwater? That's a great question. You can access the tailwater at any point. At any point, you can always go to those filters, select by tailwater only, go back out west where there's more of those tailwaters, right? Zoom back in, and we can see, you can find those gauges. And at any point, you can start checking out those gauges right below that tailwater and start keeping an active eye on what those gauges are doing, what the water release schedule might be like things like that. If we jump into the chart, you can see any of those different changes within the flows. So me, I would start checking them, I would start checking them months ahead, and then days, weeks, or every day, hours every minute before I leave, I would be obsessed with them. But that might just be awesome. Is fly shop distance from your selected point on the river what defines zero? So that's going to take the median section of that, the median of that section that you have selected, and then we'll pull that distance from there. If you create a point to point, you'll obviously be able to get that distance directly to the fly shop from there. Awesome. Is this class for using your PC, not the phone app? So again, it might be a case of utilizing the Android app over the iOS app. I am showing it on my iPad here tonight, just as a clarification, just a little bit more screen real estate, but it is going to be what you'll be able to see over on the iPhone side, on the iOS side, and then we will be showing off the web side of things here in a little bit. Mike, will you eventually have cards for the trout lakes? We've got a little bit of information currently on potentially what fish are stocked in those lakes, just within a small kind of information card there. At this point, we don't have any plans to grow that card. We're really focused here at Trout Routes on that moving trout water. So that'll be kind of stay our main focus, and we'll continue to dive into all that. Michael, one, is there a way to leave a review of a river, creek, stream, including notes, photos, videos? Obviously, streams or rivers change with time. Fishing and access can get better, but also worse at times. For instance, All Trails has an option for reviews, which gives the option for up-to-date intel. It's going to be a huge time saver for planning. Michael, great question. At this time, we don't plan to bring in any of that kind of social aspect within the app. We've kind of played with it before and thought about it, and there's different benefits and downsides of it, of course. And at this time, we are choosing to leave it out of the app. Number two, also, do you have any way to show available fishing guide services in a given area as you do with the fly shops? In terms of fishing guides, we haven't necessarily worked out the best way to figure out how to access those fishing guides that don't work through a specific fly shop. Again, we're still trying to figure out the best way to not only work with those guides and get trout routes in their hands, but also let those users know about the guides that might be along a certain section. So we're still trying to figure out the best way to work with them, and hopefully down the road here, we'll have the ability to start accessing all of those guides for those certain sections of water. So if you're planning a section, you can find a guide on a one section one day, and then start planning for sections of water that you don't want to have a guide on the next day. Great question. Randy, I'm not seeing all the filters that you have. Again, that might be just a device by device case scenario. Android is going to have some different filters there. Mark, how can you tell which direction the stream is flowing? Sometimes you can easily tell on a map, but sometimes you can't. Great question. So the easiest way to do that is going to be to utilize that elevation chart. So, gravity would tell me that water flows down, and that's the easiest way to be able to tell the elevation, the way that the water is going to be moving, is going to be utilize that elevation tool. So we can see as that elevation drops, that's going to be letting me know we can use that. That's going to be the way the water's flowing down, flowing through those reservoirs and things like that. That's going to be the quickest and easiest way to kind of tell which direction a stream is flowing. It is one of those confusing things, right? Where you think a stream should flow one way based on where you're looking at it, but a mountain range or whatever it might be has it flowing another way, right? You get all turned around. Anonymous attendee answered if the orange dot means that you can park at them and as an access point. So depending on whether that bridge is going through private or public land, that's going to be able to help you determine whether you'll be able to pull off and park at that access point. Or again, if those state by state laws determine that you can access at any bridge, there's certain states that bridges are legal access points, then that would be a legal access point for you. So that's going to be a state by state case though, usually. Hopefully we answered the information. If there's hopefully we answered the question on if there's any information about lakes. I set filters on the iPhone app. Will those hold on the web? So you are going to have to set your own settings within the web. Those Web filters are going to be slightly different, so that's going to be you're going to need to set those settings within the web. But you can have those persistent settings on any map mode and every time you open the app itself. So, Abby, hopefully we answered the question about showing trout lakes. We do have those stocked trout lakes. That is going to be what we've been able to pull within the app. And then again, go to filters, scroll on down and select trout lakes, and you'll be able to see any of those stocked trout lakes. Go back to, there we go. If we go back to Utah, you can see we've got all those stocked trout ponds and trout lakes and things like that. Steve mentioned that he clicked on a stream on the app and that the stream card wasn't working. Steve, shoot me a message at hello@troutroutes.com. If that's still not working for you, we'll make sure that we get the stream card working on your phone app there. Mike, what does bridge access private imply? So hopefully we answered this question, but that's going to imply whether a bridge is driving or moving through private land, if it's surrounded by private land, or if it's surrounded by public land. That'll be what that's designating versus private or public after that bridge access. Awesome. Next one. How do you click on a stream on your phone? So that'll be just tapping on the screen. If you, let's see here, we'll float over. If we just tap on the screen on where that stream is, that will bring open, that will be quote unquote clicking or tapping on a stream and should bring that stream card open for you. Looking at access mode, what does the color purple represent? Great question. Let's jump back into that access mode for a second and pull back up that legend. So you can see that's going to be that easement land. So again, easement land is going to be sections of private land that are given to anglers or given to the state for recreational purposes that are then you're able to access. So this is going to be sections of water that aren't on public land, are on private land, but are accessible to anglers or recreationalists of all kinds. It depends on what that easement type might be from state to state. But that's going to be what that purple designates on that on the access layer there. Awesome. Moving on. We'll answer a couple more here. Are the land colors defined somewhere? And so that's a great question. So one way to be able to tell what the land types are is if we click into those specific land, you can see we've got the reservation boundaries, we've got the public lands, BLM land. So if you click onto that kind of shaded area, you'll be able to see national forest. That'll be kind of the way to be able to help you tell those designations of what the land is. Will there be classes for Android PC users? Randy, great question. As we kind of start to bring those apps up to speed, we are going to be doing some quote unquote deep dive classes that will dive specifically into those specific devices. We are going to be quickly covering the PC or web devices at the end of class here, though. Randy, if you're missing stocking locations on streams, can we send them to you? Again, Randy, we'd love to hear from our users. We're not relying on that crowdsourced data, but if we do have some things that we could add to the maps, we do love to hear from our users for that reason. So definitely feel free to send those over on our way. The easiest way to do that is going to be support@troutroutes.com. That's going to be the best email for us. Appreciate that. Awesome. Next one, I'm looking at the access mode. What's this color? Hopefully we answered that one. Abby, appreciate you. These classes are always fun for me as well. There's a lot to cover, but I'm glad that you're getting a lot of use out of it and glad that you're recommending it to friends. Hopefully you're getting a lot of use out of the app this summer. All right, that gets us through all of the questions in the Q&A there. I won't be able to jump into the webinar chat here, so if any of those Q&A questions did make it into the webinar chat that I haven't answered, try to jump those on over into the Q&A. And I'll try to keep that webinar chat for everyone to kind of chat back and forth between and amongst each other. All righty, moving right along here. So next we're going to talk about offline maps and my content. So like I mentioned, we'll quickly cover one easy way to create offline maps. If we click onto that stream, again, tapping onto the stream itself, bringing up that stream card, we can see along the right-hand side here, we've got the offline button. If we click offline, that's going to highlight the boundary of that waterway and give us the ability to quickly and easily download that. And it's going to pump in the river name, give us the county and the state for the title of it there. So it's a really quick, easy way if you want to create an offline map around one specific area. If you want to create an offline map for a more general area, say that you're not exactly sure where you're going to be heading when you head out on the water, you can always go to a new state here. Hey, let's go out to the east. Let's go to North Carolina. And let's make sure that we don't have tailwaters only selected because there's not too many of those in North Carolina. All right, moving up into the mountains here, we can see all of that good water. And we can also see here, if we use the create button right at the center of the bottom of the screen, we can go to offline maps along the left-hand side of that little pop-up that comes up if we click create. And then using that brings up the ability to download maps offline. We can scrub a region and select a region that is going to use up the amount of tiles that we've got. You've got a lot of tiles that you can utilize. If you want to download a lot of maps, you can download a lot of maps. If you want to download just some small maps, you can download small maps. So the one thing I will say as we're downloading offline maps before we move on here is as you're downloading those maps, you want to make sure that you're downloading the base map that you want specifically. So if you want to use that roads base layer while you're out on the water, but you also want to utilize that satellite base layer while you are out on the water, and you want to make sure you have both of those layers for offline use, this is going to be the place that you'll do. You'll download that roads. It's going to populate that road. I'll download those maps. Should have maybe selected the smaller area. We'll go ahead and cancel that. And then we'll jump in and I should select the satellite layer that I want as well. Select that section I want to download. I can select satellite and that'll download that satellite section for me. And then I can, if I want to, once those are saved, I can access those easily and I can manage them by deleting them once that I've utilized them, or I can jump right to them by utilizing my content, which is just going to be right to the left there of that ability to create those offline maps. You're going to have my content, which is going to give you the quick, easy access to those offline maps that you've saved. All right, next thing we're going to cover is going to be markers. So I'm sure you've already hopefully jumped into some of those markers. This is going to be one of my favorite things to do. Once I've found a fishy spot, I like to utilize that marker tool. We can pan then to where we want that marker to be. Click create down on the bottom, and that's going to give us the ability to create a marker. It's going to have the by type, we'll be able to select one of those different icons, and then we can also select any of those custom colors on iOS. Again, this is going to be one of those features specific to iOS currently that we're going to be bringing across devices here coming soon, hopefully. So you can also add photos and notes directly to that marker. So it's going to be a quick, easy way to then again refer to what the weather conditions were like, what fly you used, add some photos of the fish that you were catching in those sections, whatever it might be. Another really quick, easy way though to create those markers is if you just click and hold, press and hold on the map, that's going to drop a pin right where that you press and hold on the screen. So that's another quick, easy way to kind of quick create. We like to call it those pins, as well as if we click off of that, you can see we've got these POIs, points of interest across the map. So I want to make sure that I have this log cabin saved for if I'm going to be traveling to North Carolina. You know, I want to fish this river here, so I want to make sure that I look into potentially staying at these log cabins. You can click on that point of interest and quickly create a icon, and it's going to pull in the type of icon designated based on what that point of interest is. So obviously this is going to be lodging, so it's going to pull in that kind of campsite or lodging based icon. So that's a really quick, easy way to create some icons as well. So it's going to be 3 easy ways that you can create those icons. So again, to recap, you can use the create button down on the bottom here and utilize new marker. We can press and hold on the screen to use that quick create, or we can utilize those points of interest to create those icons based on the type of point of interest that it might be, whether it's a restaurant or things like that. Next thing within the creating custom content, again, all of this content is private, only ever saved to your profile, is going to be that line. So let's scoot out and find some water. There we go. Find some water that's not trout water. Kind of cover that question earlier about how you might be able to utilize trout routes to find distances along non-trout water. This line tool is going to be a really great way. So I personally have utilized this to map out some of my favorite bass water around the area, so I don't have to jump around to different apps or whatever it might be. But you can do all kinds of different things with this line tool. So again, along the bottom, create new line, and we'll be able to click where we want that first point for the line to be. We can create where we want that next line to be. Go ahead and cancel that. We'll try that again. Line. We'll hover to where we want that to add. There we go. And now you can see as I'm scrubbing along the river, not only am I creating a line to be able to reference later for myself, but I'm also getting that total distance of that line. And you can see as we're still under a mile, we're going to be in feet. And right as we pop over a mile, it's going to start showing it to us in miles. So this is going to be a really nice way to be able to find those certain distances, not utilizing that river miles tool, which we will jump into in a minute, which I will say is a little bit more user intuitive. So we'll jump out of that lines tool and we'll jump into another one of my favorites, and that's going to be the shapes feature, or the shapes tool. So within the shapes tool, this is another one that I'd like to use when I'm determining different sections. You know, if I've got a section of land or an area that I know that I has some really great mushrooms or certain things like that in the spring, whatever it might be, I can utilize, you can always utilize that area or shape tool to select an area. And within that, once we create that, you can again select those colors. You can change the opacity of the fill. You can change the outline. You can change the outline type and width. So all different types of customization that then if I back out of the maps here, I can see that section pretty clearly as from multiple different zoom levels to be able to refer to later. So that's a nice, really quick, easy way to be able to save some of those different areas around the map that might not be directly tied to trout water to be able to kind of cross utilize the maps in different ways. Awesome. All right. So next thing we're going to jump into is going to be those, like I mentioned, those tools along the right-hand side here. So first one you can see is going to be the tap for location. So that's going to be kind of that arrow tool. So this is going to be a really quick, easy way. As long as you have your location services allowed, most of the time that's going to be one of the first questions that you get asked when you download the app. As long as you allow those when you download the app and you're setting everything up, you can quickly and easily snap right to where you are. So I'm going to zoom out. I'm not going to show everybody where I'm at. I'm at home tonight. So, you know, as much as I want you all sending me all those custom tied flies and everything, I'm going to pass on showing you all where I live tonight. But that's a really quick, easy way to zoom all the way in. You can get an idea of it, get really close into where you're at. So if you're out on the water and you want to make sure that you drop a pin exactly where you are, because exactly where you are at that point is exactly where you just caught a really nice brown trout, you can do that quickly and easily by utilizing that tap for location tool. Right below that, you can see we've got our measuring, kind of a ruler looking tool. So that's going to be that river miles tool. So this is, again, I mentioned the kind of easier, more user intuitive way to figure out those river miles along a certain section of water. So we're going to tap for the first starting point, and we're going to tap again for that next starting point. And just like that, we're going to be able to find out how long a certain section of water might be. So really quick, really easy. Instead of having to draw that line along all of those different intricacies and bends and things like that, this is a really, really quick, easy way to be able to tell how long a certain section of a float or a walk and wade section might be. So I used this a couple weekends ago with a buddy. We parked his car at one section, we drove then to another section, and we knew exactly how much water we had to cover in between. So we knew exactly we needed to pick it up a little bit because things were slow. We needed to get to the car before the end of the night, things like that. So it's a really quick way to be able to make sure you know how much water you're looking to cover within a day. And then the next tool on that right-hand side is going to be that book, and that's going to open up our in-app tutorials. So again, this is going to be another iOS-specific tool like that River Miles tool, but this is going to be one that we'll be bringing hopefully across platforms here soon. But this is going to give you some really quick, easy demos. So we'll jump into kind of different ways to learn. Not only do we have these in-app tutorials, we've got some other quick simple YouTube videos. We've got, again, all of our other master classes. And then for those of you who like written materials, we do have a kind of a more spelled out written user guide on our website as well. So those are going to be kind of some of those ways that you can access some more learning tools along the way as you're on your Trout Routes Pro journey. Always learning more, always adding new features too. But if we click into these are going to be really user friendly, and they're going to pull you to a stream close to you at that time too, which is really awesome. Be able to help you learn about some of the features, what they do. So if you forget anything from tonight and you don't want to have to scrub across the whole class, considering it's going to be a pretty long one, this is going to be a quick, easy way to learn some of those quick hits within the app. All right, so that's going to cover pretty much A to Z within the Trout Routes app from the mobile side of things. We're going to quickly jump into the website of things. Like I mentioned, there's just a couple new tools that I want to make sure we cover for those of you who haven't used the website of the maps before. We'll show those off really quickly. And then for those of you who are familiar, I'll make sure to cover that we've got the new stream card available there, and we've got the River Miles tool available on the website of things now. So let's jump back to things here. And before I do that, let's answer these just couple of questions that have come in. For those of you who have stuck with me all night, really appreciate it. We've had a really awesome time. This is by far our longest class, but I think we've been able to give all those users as much information as they need. And hopefully we've been able to answer any questions you might have had. So, all right, Scotty, will there be a recording available afterwards? There sure will be, Scott. You can access those recordings on our YouTube channel. I'll try to get that up at some point tomorrow. I will do my best to have it up by tomorrow evening. So if you want to watch it back tomorrow night, you can jump on by tomorrow night for sure. Jeff, will you tie into the state and Western Trout Challenge information? Jeff, that's a great question. I know we've got some information from other organizations and things like that. Make sure to reach out to our team. Best way to hit us for that type of information would be hello@troutroutes.com. We'll make sure that we would love to potentially participate in that and have any of that information within there. So thank you for that. We would love to hear more information about that. Root River, and awesome. I'm glad to hear that I was just covering some water that you were fishing on, Richard. It's great to hear, and I will say I'm a fan of that area myself. Lee, can you show how to share waypoints with other pro users? Yeah, absolutely. And so when it comes to sharing waypoints with other users, this is going to be a little bit different than it is within Onyx, if you're familiar with any of the Onyx verticals. When you share that with other users, you're often going to be sharing it via text message or maybe potentially email, whatever it might be. And that's going to simply share that location within Trout Routes to that person. You're not going to be, that location isn't going to be tied to both of your accounts. You're simply going to be able to share that location to them. So say you want to meet at somewhere, you'll be able to send it to them, say, hey, grab the locations from this, we'll meet here. So that's going to be kind of the way to share within Trout Routes. Again, something that we are potentially looking at bringing more development to down the road, but that's a way to be able to share locations with other users at this point. What was the support email? Steve, yeah, absolutely. I will type that answer out for you here. There we go. Awesome. All righty. So let's jump over to the web here. I'm going to stop sharing the iPad. And we will jump to the Trout Routes website to start. So within the Trout Routes website, for those of you who haven't been, the easiest way to start navigating to the web maps is going to be to go to our website and go to login, and that'll take you to the web maps. Or if you save this link, that's the easiest way to access it, I suppose, would be maps.troutroutes.com/login. You'll be able to log in there, and that's going to take you to those web-based maps. So we can see, again, really nice view at all of that information you'll be able to see here. We can get access to those map layers that we covered. Again, you'll have access to all those different map layers, the access layer, the regulations layer. We can jump into the legend to be able to understand those different colors on the map a little bit better. Filters. This is going to be where those different filters within the web side of things are. Region, this will be where we'll be able to select those states. And go, we'll be able to jump us to those states, to those regions. And then along the right-hand side, you'll see that we've got our toolbar here. So this is going to be where we'll be able to use 3D maps. So that's one of the really nice benefits about using the website of things, is that we have the 3D maps. So we've got 3D maps on. We'll be able to see some of those different terrain opportunities. If we go to the topography layer, we'll be able to see the terrain quite well and understand some of those hikes, some of those, again, some of the elevation. But one of the things I really want to show off here before that we end the class, before that we get too long, is going to be the new stream card is available within the website of things. So now if you click onto those streams on the web, you can see we've got that all of those awesome tabs for local information, the fly shops within the area, stream flows, bringing all those gauges within the watershed or on that waterway, access laws, and then my content. So this is going to be really awesome, a nice update, a lot more information for you on those rivers as you're scouting beforehand. You know, that's typically when people are using the web-based maps, is beforehand, as they're scouting out that water before that they kind of are in their hotel or whatever it might be the night before, right? The other tool I want to show off here before that we wrap up is going to be that we brought over that River Miles tool to the website of things. And so with that, you can see along the right-hand toolbar, we've got that ability to create those markers, those lines and those shapes down on the bottom. And then in between that and the ability to turn on those 3D maps is going to be that River Miles tool. So again, pull up the ability to one tap and then second tap. Let's see here. It had me creating a shape still. There we go. It's confusing the web. All right, one tap and two tap. And there we go. Now you can see we quickly and easily get that 1 mile distance within the River Miles feature on the website of things. All right, that is going to be the quick look that we'll take at web. Like I mentioned, we are going to do a deep dive class where we're going to go specifically into the web app deeper, but those are the two things I wanted to make sure we showed off tonight. And thank you all for joining and sticking with me tonight. We really appreciate it, and we will see you on the next one.